Hello, Mr. Plane. It's been a while. Good morning. It's -3 and don't judge, I may have been listening to an AI cover of is it 3 Years Hollow Chemical Ride? Yeah, guilty pleasure, I know. But nevertheless, the trails. Have we seen trails in the sky? Not really, gonna be honest. It's been crystal clear blue sky and it's been fantastic. Hence you've been seeing I've been doing a lot of sky watching recently, tracking those UFOs. But nevertheless, as I'm driving to work, I'm off to Bath today, we have a trail in the sky. Very small one, but all in all, it's looking really nice, despite the roadworks. But yeah, look at that, beautiful. Crystal clear blue sky. But yeah, we have a trail, so I'll keep my eye out. Don't know what the humidity is today, but it's such a very, very small trail. But we've got a lot of aircraft about, so there you go. That beautiful sunrise, isn't that beautiful? Like that. Well, I've just finished working in Bath, my way back now, and I have noticed some high altitude clouds you can see right here. Don't think it's trail related or anything like that. It's a big long trail there, you can see across the screen, but don't think there's a chemtrail though, not too sure, or a persistent trail, but nevertheless it's getting a little bit cloudy. Yeah, you can see that big long trail. I think it might be this. Now this is a cirrus cloud. It does look like a persistent trail, chemtrail, if you want to look at it. And there's some other, see, they got some trails there. But remember when I said once you have cirrus clouds, eventually you'll have trails forming in that area, or the wake of that area. So yeah, I think there's a bit of a mixed bag today. Yeah, looks like it. But that big trail, that long one, no idea. Never shot. There's another shot of the long cloud there. Yeah, it looks like a cloud. I don't think it's a chem, to be honest with you. Chems have a certain texture to it. This looks like a cirrus cloud, in all honesty. Right, back in Bristol. And what we can see so far is a bunch of cirrus clouds. We've got a number of chems in the sky, if you want to call them chems. There we go. And yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag today. I've been out and about doing my gardening, can't complain, but it's been nice though, so I can categorically confirm these trails are not blocking out the sun, because the sun's shining on my face, man. Oh, that'd be some big thick trails there, isn't it? Look at that. Yeah, there you go. We can see, actually, there's some really big thick trails I can see. See that big one? Right in the middle, that there, where my finger is? Yeah, that's a big thick one, but we do have a bit of cirrus. So remember what I said, as soon as you see cirrus, you can see trails. So yeah, I'm off to another job, and there's a bit more of a landscape view, so it'd be good to see the outcome at the moment. And this lady actually makes me like sandwiches and cups of tea. So no, I'm looking forward to it, man. Right, I'm at this client's place. Done 3 jobs today. Surprising for winter. But what we got so far, big trail, a mixture of trails blended in with thick trails. Look at that. But it's the white haze. See that blanket where the sun is? That sun's really nice for this time, and it's really cold at the moment. It hasn't reached above 3 degrees at the moment. So it's not really blocking out the sun. I mean, you can still see the sun on the ground here. But yeah, it is like proper winter weather. I love it. I love all seasons. But yeah, trails are back. Yeah, look at this. So that stretchy cloud there, that's cirrus. And that's a very common sign of cirrus. And you've got the big trail in the mix of it. There you go. Impressive, isn't it? Alright, check this out. Look at that. Huge spread out. Looks like some sort of cirrus. Look at that there. First off, I need to check the humidity. Now look at this. 33%. 35, 40, so it's not really going up at all above 40, I think, something like that. Some area on the outskirts. But my area here, it is literally 36%. Way too low for the percentage of trails to form. To be, now according to the mainstream media, the percentage of humidity needs to be above 60 or thereof between 90 and 100%, and it's 36%. And we've got a bunch of trails and cirrus in the sky. Interesting. So once again, the mainstream media, or mainstream science, has once again got it wrong. But what I want to do, I want to go on the actual pressure itself, which is, I think it's down the bottom here. There we go, pressure. And this is taking out the base level of, okay, right, that is the PSI, oh no, sorry, PSI. Here's the pressure, and it's that. So once I get home, I'm going to have a gander on what this actually means, and does it actually affect any trails. So there we go. I'll come back on a conclusion near the end of the episode. Look at this. Oh, that's a proper cirrus cloud. It's nothing to do with the trails. Well, to be honest with you, it's kind of hard because remember last time where you can tell you got like a line going through and then it stretches out because it obviously the trail will hit the wind shear. And that's what's causing it to go like that. I am back home, and finally it is clear blue sky to a certain degree. I'm going to begin to do my sky watching, and you can see there's a few trails just in the back there. Very tiny. But yes, there were some trails in the sky. But did it affect the sunlight? No. I can see one being laid right there. It's very faint, but yeah, sun is going down, and the stars are going to be shining. I'm going to be doing a bit of sky watching today. Once again, let's have a look at the time lapse on the 21st of November 2025. And it was on the Friday. So let's bring up the time lapse video and let's compare how many trails were in the sky. It's been a few days later, as we are the Monday, and I can't really remember what happened that day. I think we mostly saw the trails in the evening. Now, there's one thing you need to take in consideration, that the fact that our days are a lot more shorter, so it'll be a very quick time lapse. I'm going to skip over the night time lapse because you ain't really going to see anything, but it's purely just for the trails. All right. So this is the morning, as it's still dark. And if I remember rightly, there was, I think, a couple of trails, because I was in Bath that specific day, which is about 10 miles away from my location, where it is here. So let's see what trails are in the area. Okay, you just see it, just faint. You see one right there. Now, normally, if you see a mass amount of trails, persistent trails in the sky, normally you see it around about 6 o'clock, maybe 5 o'clock in the morning. and then it starts to ramp up. There we go. You can see trails start to form now. But they're very, very thin. As you can see here, it's starting to go into quantity, but it's still quite thin. Like that, if that's spread out, it's not really going to block out the sun. Do you know what I mean? And it does kind of look like it turns into cirrus. And I noticed that with these trails, sometimes it looks like cirrocumulus, ultracumulus. Sometimes it looks like cirrus clouds. It depends on the, I guess, the atmosphere, isn't it? Really, and the jet stream and the wind shear that goes with it. So this amount of cloud at the moment, is this to do with the trails? Because this cloud here is part of cirrus, but you do have trails. But admittedly, the trails are very, very thin, like that one there. See? So this amount of cloud, I think it's natural. See one trail there, they're very, very small. And remember I said that the trails that actually spread out, there's a distinct line you can tell. And that's how we tell what's a trail that's actually spread out compared to a cirrus cloud, which they kind of look very similar, I have to admit. You saw a lot of that on that specific day. A very long, stretchy cloud, which is cirrus. So every time I see cirrus is an indication that there's moisture in the atmosphere. Because remember, the cirrus cloud is in the same altitude as the trails forming in the sky. See what I mean by the trails? Very, very thin, very thin. And this is a natural cloud. Again, so a couple of more trails there. Nothing too drastic. Except for this bit. There you go, boom. See how bubbly it goes instead of stretchy? There we go, right. That there is obviously a trail, but you have the mix of this other cloud as well, which is either a cirrocumulus, which is like this bubbly cloud. There we go. This is what I mean by the trails when they actually spread out. It's very bubbly. And here's the two indications here. Here's your cirrus. I'm going to put a picture of cirrus on the screen right now. You can see. Now, cirrus clouds are stretchy and long, depending on the atmosphere and depending how much moisture got in the atmosphere as well, from what I've read anyway. And in the mix of the cirrus, you always have trails. Oh, I keep seeing it over and over and over again. Is because it's the base level of the troposphere and stratosphere. I mean, in technical terms, you're talking about above 25,000 feet, which is basically what you're seeing here. But you can see the trails are getting big and spreading out. But one thing you've got to take in consideration is that how much moisture it is in the atmosphere. And you can kind of tell that because you've got the cirrus cloud. But we'll get to the but in a minute. Look how long and big it gets. It like stretches out. Look at that trail actually disappeared. Look. See? There you go. Trail and watch it disappear. Now we're coming into nighttime. See a couple of trails. All right, skip ahead. Oh, there's a few trails. There's a couple of them at night. Yeah, a few at night actually. Now, before I move on to the satellite, I must stress, and there's one thing I forgot to mention, is that the fact that the humidity level, which according to the mainstream science saying that if the humidity is above 60% or thereof 90 to 100%, that's the reason why trails are forming in the sky. But as you saw from this, it was 30% and we're still having mass amounts of cirrus clouds and even with the trails in the mix with it. That makes no sense. Okay, maybe there's something else that I need to look into, But according to what the mainstream science is saying, and my conclusion of this specific day is that the fact that the mainstream science explanation of why these trails are persistent in the sky does not make sense. And you can see here, once again, the humidity was 30% when it needs to be above 60%. So it's worth showing you that. Right, okay, last but not least, let's look at the satellite feed on that day. You can see right here where my cursor is, the 21st of November, and this is at 4:20 a.m., a bit too early. But what we're going to notice, this right here is going to make its way east towards my direction, all right? See it moving? And remember that big stretchy cloud is all to do with this, all right? So a lot of people say all to do with geoengineering, but if they actually just spend a bit of time looking at the satellite feed, you can see it's part of a much more bigger picture. So once again, let's move into this area right here, the southwest. And I'm just going to go bit by bit, actually, bit by bit. I want to see what the trails actually do. Can we see any trails? Yeah, you can see them just about there. But bear in mind, we've got this massive blanket. It's about to come into fruition. Yeah, you can see the trails just there. Keep going ahead. And into nighttime. Well, that was very quick. That was very, very quick. So, yeah, okay. Just to give you an estimate how many trails are in my area in any given moment. All right, so we're talking about this area here. Let's have a look. There's a few trails there. But remember, through my time lapse, I know it's a very small portion of the sky we're actually observing, but we need to look at the overall picture of the southwest. We'll have a look at the UK in a minute. But all in all, is that trails you see there, is it going to block out the sun? What's going to block out the sun? That or the small, tiny little trails in the sky? Do you know what I mean? By actually observing the satellite feed, you can actually get an overall perspective. And I just don't think people in the chemtrail community actually do, no offense, any research. They just point at trails and going, oh, that's blocking out the sun. If it's not blocking out the sun, it's there to poison us. If it's not there to poison us, it's there for weather modification. If it's not for weather modification, it's for making the frogs gay. If it's not for making the frogs gay, it's there to poison the plants. If it's not there to poison the plants, you get the common theme. You know, it's always like pointing at something. You know, it's a bit like the you know, the people that believe in climate change. You know, every time it rains, every time it's hot, every time we have a hurricane, every time we have a tornado, it's like, oh, definitely climate change. It's like you're pointing at something without any scientific analysis or any sort of base research that they have actually done. Again, it's just they've just been conditioned to think that. I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but you understand what I mean. This is an overall part of a much more bigger picture of what we're seeing here. Instead of, again, just pointing at the sky and going, oh, definitely chemtrails, when these people don't really know how clouds are formed or what a cloud is. No offense. Right, let's have a look at the overall landscape of the UK. Right, let's have a look. Let's go back to 6:30 and see if there's any trails throughout the UK. Let's go into 8:30. Again, we've got this massive amount of depression that's about to hit the whole entire UK. Yeah, I don't see any trails whatsoever, enough to actually blanket the sun, because it gets dominated by this cloud right here. So there we have it. On the 21st of November 2025, did the trails block out the sun? No, it didn't. In fact, if you saw one of the clips in the video, you can see the sun was actually shining on my face. And that's actually, once you're in the sun, it's actually quite nice. And it was around about 3 degrees. It was quite cold, I have to admit. But nevertheless, it's not a failed experiment. Now, if you're new to this channel, it may sound like I come across as a skeptic. I'm not. I'm just analyzing what these trails are actually doing, if it's there to block out the sun. Because like I said, a lot of people are just pointing it up into the sky and saying, oh, is a couple of trails are there to block out the sun. It's like, well, let's put that into a realistic conclusion. And I think it's quite important for people that are in the chemtrail community, people, researchers like me, to actually look at the satellite feed and say, right, okay, are these trails actually blocking out the sun, instead of just pointing at it? Because I think a lot of people have been conditioned to think that these trails are nefarious harbingers of doom, when potentially I think a lot of these trails of what we're seeing in the sky could just be natural. Okay, and this is why I'm trying to balance between the two, what the chemtrail people are saying and what the mainstream science is saying. And I have to look at both equations here and make it a realistic perspective. Okay, so it may sound like I'm a skeptic, but I'm really not. Chemtrails are real, but I think what we see in a vast majority of the day is not blocking out the sun. And I've got 40 parts of that going. Must have done like 25 parts or even 30 parts this year alone, going through the trails. And even throughout the heat wave throughout the summer, you can see that there's been no trails and they have definitely not blocked out the sun. And that is through my analysis that I have done. I'm not just saying that, I've got backed up proof, 40 episodes of it. These trails are not blocking out the sun, and it's just got to be said. So anyway, you can find me on The Cosmic Twilight on YouTube or Investigate with Nick on Rumble. I'll see you very soon.